In this video, I really want to go over something I've posted 3 months ago, as you can see right here on the screen, on the 13th of March. And I want to just kind of show what it is that I was saying about Tesla in particular, and then we're going to go over the chart and see what sort of happened and changed since then.
As an overall sort of rough sketch of what the price action will look like. It doesn't necessarily going to take exactly that amount of time. I'm just stretching it sometimes so you guys can see the sort of price action that I'm talking about. Bottom line, what you need to derive about Tesla, for example, is that we're going to be moving again within this channel. I do show this thing. You're like, Greg, well, what is this then? This is if things will get like really well for Tesla during the up rally, one of those waves temporarily, so we might as well test some highs. I'm not saying this will be the particular highs, but I'm showing that we might, even though this will be the channel, doesn't mean we cannot slip out, temporarily test some new highs for this sort of range of things. Of course, old highs, if you really want to be more precise, new highs relative to where we are on the map, but more so this sort of formation is also very likely because of that sort of head and shoulders structure.
Anyway, bottom line is kind of, I think, understood by now. Let's go over the chart right now so it'll be a little bit more up to speed. And well, surprise, surprise. I kind of missed it by, I think, what was that? If I was saying 380 range, I missed it roughly about 13-ish dollars, if you will. It depends on how high you want to compare the actual precise lines that I was pointing out. But generally speaking, exactly that very structure. I was talking that about that very scenario right here when we were, well, that long ago, actually 3 months ago, and I was warning how when the sentiment was absolutely obviously screaming and everybody were completely running around like headless chickens and tearing their hair off their heads saying that it's the end of the world is coming and that's it, Tesla is gonna go to $4 and whatnot, and contradictively to my position, which most of you know is S triple Q, basically a negative position towards the overall market. Still, bottom line is what happened here is, and I was saying that the market will rally up, Tesla will correct with it, and I gave rough highs, sort of a rough sketch scenario of how this may play out, and it ended up playing out as you can see right now on the screen. So I'm not going to leave you just with I told you so. What we're going to do today is also going to look where the market is headed right now as it stands. Right now, we are seeing Tesla is still appears to be bullish, but moving towards that 50 range on the stochastic RSI, which most of you who have been following know the anything and everything that stays below the 50 means the actually the price action is bearish, is not gonna potentially move any higher, but potentially gonna keep within that downwards trend channel that we're seeing right now, retesting, creating what I was implying will look like some sort of head and shoulders, although it's arguably hard to tell whether this is an actual shoulder or this is just a part of that overall sort of movement. The way to do this and identify them, of course, knowing the cycle first of all. So yeah, highly recommending checking out the community so you can join and hang out with us and learn all about the tools that we use. How was it that I was able to predict this precise movement as precise as possible 3 months in advance, right? So we know the market in overall right now is headed towards the down direction, although we've been kind of hugging and moving sideways for a while, and we've been saying how the individual assets are highly related and correlated to the indices, to the overall market, and so subsequently you cannot really expect Tesla to rally crazy while the indices are actually depreciating in price, right? Now, what we're seeing right now with regards to the larger sort of structure on the weekly, we're seeing we already broke down into the range of the stochastic RSI into the body below the 80, and we are actively bearish. On the monthly chart, we actually are in convergence and a bit of a uncertainty sort of moment below the 50 range on the monthly, which means potentially we're going to see a little bit more sideways before we actually continue that, well, for real downtrend on the 3 months. On the quarterly, we've been bearish all along. What this entire movement we've had just recently was signified by is merely this tiny little knob, if you will, that is pseudo bullish, of course. We did get a crazy rally within it, as insane as it is, of course. Within that 3 months, we had our own individual sort of, breakdown of the smaller time frames, and subsequently we were able to detect that there will be higher movements than expected, depending on what part of the cycle. As you can see, the entirety of this move and everything we've been experiencing for the past X amount of months, if it's 3, 4, 5 months actually, all in all, we've been moving within a very narrow range on the larger time frames. It's a little bit clearer when you look at this sort of point of view, the 3 months. You realize we've kind of been moving all along and decreasing with our momentum to the downside. Basically, lower highs, kind of flat with regards to our bottom, basically almost finding an extremely strong support. And you can tell from far away when we zoom out. What we do realize about this, that all along this support was, of course, pretty obvious and should have been expected. As you can see, this very resistance or support played its role as we were moving through. Then it posed as floor or as a support throughout this period. This year it was resistance, then it became ceiling resistance again, just to break through to become floor again. Basically, all along we've been testing along the side, along this support resistance, which is roughly around 250 to 160. So as it stands right now, as you can see, as the prediction uh, as it was turned out to be roughly about, I would say, 95% correct. I mean, you do you. I really don't care how you define this. Um, and yeah, that's the overall prediction. I mean, nothing really changed about Tesla. We are headed downwards. To be more precise and clear, if anyone has any doubts or, you know, uncertainty about what I was trying to highlight and say here, really the market is going to be headed further down. Nothing really changed. We're the very to the very least we can say that we are in the very same channel that we were before, so not a lot has changed really. We'll probably moving alongside these levels at least for the following weeks as we are headed lower and lower with individual assets as we're moving with the market. We're kind of going to be moving all together, more likely than not. What else? What else I want to remove from that little junkyard so we can see stuff a little bit better? So yeah, I mean, if you literally watch the video from 3 months ago, you will realize that the analysis and the prediction, pardon me, has not changed one iota. Everything is exactly as it stood. We were back then looking at around 385, and sort of the back end of things once we've completed that sort of type of movement, right? That irrational rally out of the blue, out of nowhere. And we're probably on the back end of things right now, headed lower. So yeah, if you want to know more, if you want to know how is it that I was able to predict this so far in advance, and yes, I'm not going to be one of those Captain Obviouses on YouTube that's just going to tell you exactly what the market is doing today. That's very difficult, looking at the price action and saying, oh look, the market is going up. Oh look, the market is going down. No, shit, Mr. Captain Obvious, right? So the real trick is the ability to predict things far in advance and, well, plan, right? Plan, or maybe even set your actions accordingly. So to know all that and to be more so in the know, definitely do join my community. Here it is, www.patreon.com/investory. You'll be greeted with a couple of tiers here. Why am I not seeing the tiers? Why am I not seeing the tiers? Oh, is that? Huh? That's so weird. That's so weird. That's so weird. Okay, that's, I guess they've changed this. But anyway, now that if you press, or maybe if you have your menu a little bit more expanded, you'll get this. By the way, if you do pay annually, you do get a bit of a discount of 20% off. And instead of paying 30, you'll pay 24. And then you'll be able to join our weekly meetings. Although right now I'm kind of abroad. I'm right now in Varna in Bulgaria. And actually, I'm kind of stuck, those who don't know, because let me show you on the screen. This thing happened literally 5 minutes drive away from where I live. I hope you realize Iran's ballistic missiles can cause a serious amount of damage, which I was talking about to my community members. As you can see, it's basically entire lives just completely demolished, destroyed, right? As you can see, to absolutely, reduced to absolute rubble, and a lot of injured people, a lot of deaths, unfortunately. So things are not great back at home, and I'm right now abroad. I'll be traveling some more within the following days around Bulgaria, and I will try to report, but this thing definitely did put me off track, and just the sheer worry for my family members, myself trying to plan out how will I do things. I mean, everything kind of went sideways, right? So yeah, that's it. That's what's going on, and that's all I wanted to say really. All I wanted to say is talk about Tesla and point out how the prediction worked its way right about perfectly, and we're potentially going to see the continuation of the downside within the following sessions. But before that happens, we may move sideways for several sessions easily, and maybe even I would say a week and a half long just before we start breaking lower. In fact, considering everything, the market didn't really go as high as I've predicted. I predicted the market potentially to go a little bit higher, as we can see, but 95% accuracy still, 3 months in advance. Pretty impressive, I would say. Anyway, boys and girls, I'll leave you with that. You do you, of course. Definitely join the community. I also do one-on-one tutoring, right? Right now, it's kind of up in the air. The sessions are a little bit problematic simply because the well schedule, my mood is not exactly there, my mind is not there. So, but I do still have a couple of spots. You can lock them in and be sure that nobody takes them. Right, you'll have a better time. Don't forget you have the ability to choose your own schedule. But yeah, that's kind of it. That's all I wanted to say about it. See you in the next video, boys and girls. Bye for now.